Invincible Season 4, Full Plot Explained.
Season 3 ended around issue 65 in the comics. Like the previous seasons, Season 4 will likely consist of 8 45-minute episodes. The show occasionally rearranges events, but I'm using the comics as a framework to estimate what each episode might cover. Of course, this is all speculation, so feel free to debate it in the comments. The main storyline this season will be the Viltrumite War. The first half of the season will focus on setting things up, while the second half will deal with the war's climax and aftermath, roughly covering events up to issue 78. Episode 1 should pick up directly after where Season 3 left off. Issues 66 and 67 follow Nolan and Alan on their mission. Nolan meets Thetis and is sent alongside Alan to gather weapons capable of harming Viltrumites. This includes allies like Space Racer and creatures such as the Raudnar. That material will probably make up most of the episode. The remaining portion will adapt issue 68, focusing on Mark after Season 3 finale. We'll likely see the introduction of Dinosaurus, who becomes a major villain later on, possibly in Season 5. While Dinosaurus is in his human form, Mark briefly considers eliminating him permanently, but the Guardians interrupt before he can act. The episode would likely end with Conquest escaping from Cecil's prison. Episode 2 should cover issues 69 and 70. Mark visits Eve's house for an awkward dinner with her parents. Not long after, they confront Universa, another villain who will return later in the story. Then the Sequids launch another invasion. The Guardians' plan fails, leaving Mark with no choice but to kill the innocent host in order to stop the Sequids. The decision weighs heavily on him, but it proves that he meant what he said in the Season 3 finale.
So if anyone else ever puts my family or anyone I love at risk, I won't hesitate to kill them.
Episode 3 will likely open with Mark and Cecil meeting at the Pentagon to discuss Mark's actions. This leads to Mark being sent to confront Titan and Dragon introduced last season. Mark nearly kills Titan to ensure the threat doesn't return, but Cecil steps in before it goes that far. Around this time, we'll also see Conquest arriving before Thragg, begging for forgiveness, giving us our first major introduction to Thragg as the ultimate antagonist. This episode may also feature Mark receiving his new suit. It resembles his original costume, but without knee pads and with gloves that cover his fingers. Either this episode or the next may end with Nolan and Alan returning to Earth to recruit Mark for the war. Robert Kirkman has already confirmed that episode 4 will center on a brand new storyline involving Damien Darkblood. It won't follow the comics directly, but Kirkman hinted that Mark will literally travel to hell and face the devil. This storyline could serve as a symbolic moment of atonement for some of Mark's earlier mistakes in the season. At some point during the episode, Flaxlands invade again, sending Robot and Monster Girl into their dimension, although their full storyline likely won't be explored until a later season. In episode 5, Mark opens up to Eve about his fears of what the war might turn him into. Meanwhile, Nolan and Alan track down Take Jacket and ask him to join the war effort. Nolan eventually returns to Earth to reunite with Debbie, and the encounter goes about as awkwardly as you'd expect. Mark and Eve also struggle emotionally as Mark prepares to leave for war. During their journey through space, a group of Viltrumites intercepts their ship and destroys it. Among them is Conquest, setting up a massive rematch. Mark ultimately defeats him, but the injuries he suffers will take months to recover from. Episode 6 focuses on recovery. Nolan and Oliver care for Mark as he heals, giving the story time for some meaningful father-son moments. After learning about the attack on their ship, Thetis officially declares the start of the war. The episode features Alan and Take Jacket coordinating with the coalition across Viltrumite-controlled planets. Meanwhile, Thragg sits aboard his warship, sending Viltrumite forces to attack Telescria and destroy the coalition. Mark wakes up just in time and joins Nolan and Oliver in the battle. Together, Mark and Oliver destroys Thragg's ship, forcing him to retreat back to Viltrum. Episode 7. Episode 7 begins with Thetis declaring the Viltrumite War nearly finished. The surviving Viltrumites have regrouped on Viltrum for one final stand. His plan is to attack their homeworld before they can wasn't fully prepared. We get the iconic scene of heroes assembling for the final assault. As they approach Viltrum, Thragg ambushes them. Battle Beast attacks her, but soon the rest of the Viltrumites pour into the battle. Mark recklessly confronts Thragg, and Oliver joins the fight, resulting in Oliver losing his arm. Theodos orders Mark and Nolan to fight beside him. With the help of Space Racer's Infinity Ray, they fly straight through the planet Viltrum, destroying it. As most fighters drift unconscious in space, Theodos demands the surviving Viltrumites surrender. Thragg responds with pure rage, declaring that nothing remains but revenge, and decapitates him. The episode ends with Thragg delivering a chilling warning: "You're all next." Episode 8. Like Season 3, the finale begins immediately with the massive battle. This is where Mark fully realizes just how powerful Thragg truly is. Thragg charges directly at Mark. Mark fights back, but Thragg is consumed by rage after everything he's lost. Nolan saves Mark at the last possible moment. Alan and Tech Jacket retreat with Space Racer, leaving Mark and Nolan alone against Thragg. Nolan tells Mark that defeating Thragg may be impossible. Thragg grabs them both, but Nolan breaks free long enough to tell Mark he loves him and orders him to escape. Unfortunately, Nolan can't hold him off for long. Thragg catches Mark and begins beating him again until Nolan returns, only to be impaled by Thragg. Thragg ultimately leaves both of them nearly dead, but alive for his own future plan. They drift through space until Coalition rescues them. 2 weeks later, Mark wakes up in a Coalition hospital, relieved to see Nolan and Oliver survive. Then Alan delivers terrible news: every Viltrumite has disappeared. Mark instantly realizes what that means. They have gone to Earth. The journey back is tense and filled with anxiety as Mark imagines the worst case scenarios. When they finally reach Earth, Mark searches everywhere but finds no sign of the Viltrumites. He reunites with Nolan in relief until Thragg appears. Mark attacks him, but Thragg proposes a truce. The Viltrumites will live on Earth and repopulate using humans. With no better option, Mark reluctantly agrees. The season ends with Mark saying, "The war is over, but we didn't win." We'll likely see teasers setting up the next season, including Dinosaurus returning and Alan learning about the Scourge virus. That's how I imagine this incredible season unfolding. It probably won't match the comics exactly, but the general direction should be close. I'm excited to see how much of this prediction ends up being right when the season finally releases. Now, if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit 200 subscribers. It'll really go a long way. Thank you.